Welcome back to Coming Home with Dr. Cara Barker. That would be moi. And I have been sharing with you today the people who come, the kinds of problems, the kinds of challenges that they bring with them. And again, I want to remind you that if you would like, and I'd love it if you would, contact and interaction with me, just get on the internet and Google carabarker.net, and you're going to see a host of different opportunities for yourself: teleconferences, an interactive blog where we can have dialogue together, and different possibilities for yourself depending on your level of interest and your commitment actually to expanding your life. If you want greater aliveness, more juice in your life, more satisfaction, a deeper sense of peace and freedom, then get in touch with me. I'll be listening. So, with that said, let me tell you about the next situation. And again, the particulars of your story are very unique to you, just as the particulars of Anna's are to her, and yet there are connecting themes. So let me tell you about Anna's situation. Of course, I've changed her name to protect her information, but basically she came in a state of emergency, and she was bringing with her a major disappointment in love, is what I would call it, which is something that all of us have known at one time or another, either disappointments in love through absence that's been chosen, or disappointments in love through loss. So what if this disappointment that comes threatens our survival? So it kind of, I'm going to show you, it seems to come out of nowhere like it did for her. And with her, that came through a phone call. It came through a phone call from her husband, who has been her husband for 33 years, and he told her that he's been having an affair for the last 4 years. And she was shocked, dumbfounded. She said to me, "But I love him so much. I mean, how am I going to go through this?" And then she said something very compelling. She said, "Cara, how am I going to grow through this?" Now, Anna is a cardiologist. So here she is with a heartache herself, and her vocation is around helping other people with their hearts. I couldn't help but remember, there's a man by the name of Dr. Cara Barker. He's also a Jungian analyst. He was from England, no relationship. And he wrote an amazing book called Healing in Depth. It's an old book. If you can access it, I think you're going to find it very compelling. And what he said in his findings was that people often choose the profession to heal the hurt that they've had that's not been attended to the degree that it needs to be. So she was called for one, whether you believe that or not, it doesn't matter, but she was called into the work of the heart, and now her heart was really hurting. So she felt like this relationship that has been such a major piece of her for over half her life, she is now 67 years old, that she's in this boat, and there's this huge wave, this huge upheaval, and what does she do? What does she do about that? How does she even begin to approach this? I asked her, what do you think is the solution? And she said, in again like a whisper, I'll just try to be better. I'll try to be good. I'll try so hard to be good. And when she said that, as we now are starting to move into her process, up came in my memory banks that poem of Mary Oliver. Look it up. It's marvelous. Print it out. Laminate it. Frame it. It's so good for those in our tribe who have been the movers and shakers, the achievers and producers, the one who go, if it's to be, it's up to me. And yes, we have to take personal responsibility, but there comes a time, as Mary points out in Wild Geese, as she says, you don't have to be good. You don't have to crawl on your knees through the desert for 100 miles repenting. Did you hear me? You don't have to be good. You don't have to crawl on your knees through the desert for 100 miles repenting. All you have to do is love the small, furry creature, that small, furry animal inside you. And that which is inside us, especially if we've been out there producing and striving for goals and all that kind of business, especially people like this, we forget what lives inside us. Now, I mentioned with Barry, remember the drawing of the ladder down into the mine, down to the 2-million-year-old man? Well, in Anna's case, that ladder goes down to what I'll call, and we call together, the 2-million-year-old lover. That's the one that's there, that's just ready to love, that's just filling up and spilling over with possibilities for Anna to learn to love herself. But first, she had to get to the necessity of going down into that darkness that is the unconscious. Because you see, let me show you this. If you can see this, in this little teeny tiny, you probably can't, but not to worry, it's a tiny little rowboat, and it's riding the waves here. Imagine an ocean. And we think, this is the ego, this is who Anna thinks she is, this is who Barry thought he was, this is who Consuelo believes she was. The ego is just our idea of ourselves, but meanwhile underneath here is more truth, more wisdom than we can even believe is possible. In fact, Carl Jung said toward the end of his life, he said, I don't know enough to feel my smallest fingernail. And I think if a giant like that could, he was very human, he had his dark side too, he had all that going on, but he shifted the way we look at the soul of who we are as human beings, and he shifted it cross-culturally. If he doesn't know that much, then the rest of us, mere mortals, we know even less. I think that's fair to say. So there's a treasure house that's underneath that, and that was where Anna's process and your process is trying to take you when there have been disappointments in love for you, be it with a partner, be it with an ex, be it with your family, parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren, friendships, sense of betrayal. All that's trying to bring us down home to who we are in the love department. So we have to have, this is part of the process then, the what that brings us here for Anna's, this disappointment, and her old strategy, her old way of organizing was, I'll just try to be better. But that wasn't the answer. Nothing changes unless something changes. So she had to be willing to find a new way, more a Mary Oliver way really in her case. She had to find a way to stop repenting, stop crawling on her knees begging. She had to find a way of, yes, being humbled by the situation, but humbled in the way that she could find grace and find that truth that sets us free. So that was our process in working together for quite some time. I'm happy to tell you that her relationship with her partner is doing very, very well. Blessedly, he was willing to do his share of the work. He was willing to expand his own boundaries, and that's what they both had to do. As you can see that here is just expand who they think they are, and also expand their perception of what relationship is really about. It appears that relationship is out there. To me, that's like horizontal love. It's like looking for satisfaction out here, and that's what all of us do until we realize that we've come to a dead end in that department. We have to start looking, you could say instead of horizontally, we have to start looking vertically, climbing down to the bottom of that ladder and finding out what's there so that we can love what's there, who we really are. Now in Anna's case, what you found was this little starving orphan person. That was the her that she left behind when her mother died when she was a teenager. And her mother had been a source of warmth to her. And when that happened to Anna, she just decided, if it's to be, it's up to me. And she rallied and she set her goals, and there was no one around her who really could meet her in that despair and that earlier disappointment.